You're watching Education for Health Professional Regulators of Ontario, colleges under the Regulated Health Professions Act. Richard Steinica is a senior partner of Steinica Mikura LeBlanc, and he practices exclusively in the area of professional regulation. Richard is a noted author of the Complete Guide to the Regulated Health Professions Act, which, because of its comprehensive nature, has been cited by courts and tribunals, even in cases dealing with non-health professions. Marshall Molesky is the past president of the Federation of Health Regulatory Colleges of Ontario, and he serves as Chief Executive Officer and Registrar of the Ontario College of Pharmacists. Join Marshall and Richard now as Marshall poses a number of important questions on behalf of those of us who want to know more about regulating healthcare practitioners in Ontario.
Richard, you mentioned the public interest quite a few times already. This is a reoccurring theme for colleges, isn't it?
It certainly is, and we'll be talking about that a lot throughout the presentation. The mandate of the colleges are to serve and protect the public interest. The problem is that what is in the public interest depends on the circumstances. So take an example. Should 25% of the college's complaints and discipline budget be reallocated to the quality assurance program? That's a discussion in which there's not necessarily a single correct answer.
Thoughtful and committed council members looking at the same facts may come up with different options in serving the public interest. What sources of information can assist us in identifying and assessing the public interest?
Well, part of the reason for the difference of views is that the mandate of the college is stated in very broad terms. The objects of the college, that's a legal term describing what the college is supposed to be doing, is set out very generally. And then there are additional provisions that talk about, for example, the eradication of sexual abuse. Then the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care has his or her own mandate that is different, including ensuring standards are appropriate and ensuring that patients receive sensitive treatment. So in the language of carrying out its objects, the college has a duty to serve and protect the public interest, allows a lot of room for interpretation. Another reason for the difference of views is that the method of selection of council members sometimes suggests that people are elected to represent their constituents, and that's just wrong, but it's an assumption that's often made, and it's something that we have to try to address. It's like a board of directors where you are selected by a particular means to serve the mandate of serving the public interest. Another issue is that the public interest is a subjective concept, and what might seem very much in the public interest to one person might seem to be in the professional self-interest for someone else. And there's human nature. In that example we gave, I bet you the chair of the complaints and discipline committees would have a different view from the chair of the Quality Assurance Committee on that issue. And then there's the perspective of individuals. If you are a solo practitioner in a rural area, you probably have a different perspective of when you need to call in a consultant than if you are working in an urban area.
What sources of information can assist us in identifying and assessing the public interest?
We start off with enabling legislation. It tells you a lot about what you're supposed to be doing and why you're supposed to be doing it, and gives a lot of guidance. Then you think you are a delegated body. You're doing what the government could be doing on its own, and so you need to come at the issue from that perspective. Courts then review what you do, and they make a number of decisions that give you guidance. For example, they really emphasize in the court decisions the need to be fair to practitioners and applicants for registration. And then you look at studies, commissions, and inquiries. There are a lot of them. For example, the Health Professions Regulatory Advisory Council has a number of reports on its website that would be useful reading.
Richard, do you have any practical guidelines or tips for those trying to identify the public interest on a particular issue?
Well, look at what the Act says you should be doing, the list of activities. And so if you're spending most of your time dealing with, in your council or in your committee, talking about registration, complaints, discipline, proactive regulation, transparency, that's a good indicator that you are searching for the public interest. If you're spending most of your time talking about what the per diem should be for professional members of council, maybe you're missing the point. So another approach that's typical for lawyers is contrasting with what's not in the public interest. So whatever serves the interests of the members of the profession at the expense of the public, for example, raising fees that are charged by practitioners, would not be in the public interest. All the time recognizing that there is an overlap between enlightened self-interest and protecting the public. So for example, it helps everyone, including members of the profession, if the dishonest or incompetent members of the profession are effectively addressed through the regulatory process. And accepting the duty to be fair to practitioners, that can be a good guidance to you. And then distinguish between goals and methods. So for example, if you wanted to have every member of the profession recertify every 5 years, and you just brought that in abruptly, that would be a challenge. But maybe if you want to get there, but do it in small steps over a number of years, and perfecting your process as you go along, you would be much more likely to succeed in that initiative.
Richard, you said always start with the RHPA. How would you summarize the major themes of the Regulated Health Professions Act?
Well, serve and protect the public interest over and over again. Then the RHPA really emphasizes that the colleges are to be held accountable for their actions, or if they don't act. The Act also ensures and emphasizes public access to your activities. And they also emphasize that you would proactively regulate members who are doing a good job to help them do a better job. The eradication of sexual abuse is emphasized over and over again. The colleges need to be equitable in how they address issues. So for example, ensuring that internationally trained applicants are recognized for the competencies that they do have.